The nation's corn and soybean crop development jumped this week while conditions for both crops held steady from the previous week. Corn silking jumped to 55%, just 1 percentage point behind the 5-year average of 56%. Minnesota corn silking came in at 47%, North Dakota 17%, and South Dakota 43%. Nationally, the crop was rated 69% in good to excellent condition. Minnesota was rated 86% good to excellent, followed by North Dakota with 80% and South Dakota coming in last with 76% in good to excellent condition. U.S. soybeans were 56% blooming, up 18 percentage points from last week's 38% and even with the 5-year average. Minnesota's crop was 75% blooming, North Dakota 71%, and South Dakota 51%. Soybeans setting pause reached 17%, up from 6% last week, and even with the average pace. Minnesota pods were 21% set, North Dakota 23%, and South Dakota with 7%. Winter wheat harvest progressed to 75% complete, slightly ahead of the average. Spring wheat headed was 96%, ahead of last year and the 83% 5-year average. Minnesota wheat was 99% headed, North Dakota 94%, and South Dakota 97% headed. Overall, spring wheat condition came in at 70% good to excellent. Minnesota was 83%, North Dakota 82%, and South Dakota 62% in good to excellent condition. Well, the weekly crop report confirms that crop development is right about average for this time of year. Corn is tasseling, but for soybeans, early season rains are making them vulnerable.
We had some root issues, I think, from the early rains, set some of the beans back. Rhizoctonia, there's quite a bit of rhizoc this year. So once you get that plant a little bit sick with soybeans, everything else kind of jumps on board with it and starts beating it up. So a little bit more IDC in some of those lower wet areas. Soybeans are coming along, you know, they're all blossoming right now. As long as they're not stressing moisture-wise, if they're not too dry, they shouldn't be aborting any of those flowers and then leading to aborted pods. As long as they got good moisture and going through the heat, they should be just fine. Notice some more resistant weeds. We've been seeing, you know, the water hemp, ragweed in this area is probably the worst, kochia as you go west. So making sure what you've done so far has worked. If not, you know, it's getting late to be doing some rescue treatments, but you know, if you got to go up there by hand and pull 5 or 6 plants, that could be pretty beneficial in the upcoming years. So as long as we're making sure all the fields are clean, kind of using a zero tolerance factor, getting all the weeds out of these fields would be, that's kind of the plan.
Tomorrow morning, Adam takes a look at corn development and mid-season management of that crop. While the soybean cyst nematode continues to establish a foothold on the valley soil, it's a microscopic critter that can rob soybean farmers of yield with no above-ground visible symptoms. Those familiar with the soybean cyst nematode problem say growing soybean varieties that are resistant to soybean cyst damage is important.
When you have soybean cyst nematode, the soybean growers really need to choose a cultivar, a variety that has resistance, and many of the companies now have resistant cultivars. You know, the selection is much better than it was 10 years ago, of course, but also growers need to try to get some rotations in there with non-host crops. You know, certainly corn and the small grains, and none of those are hosts. The only 2 hosts we really have to worry about here are soybeans and dry beans.
Dr. Nelson says research at NDSU to develop dry bean varieties resistant to SCN is advancing quickly, but will be a few years coming to farmers. Well, it's time now for Technology Tuesday, the latest technology in agriculture. Agriculture generates more than $25 billion annually and creates more than 100,000 jobs. From livestock to grains to equipment, it's a booming industry. Farming has come a long way over the years, and with today's modern technology, farmers can better manage their crops and livestock. The latest piece of equipment looks more like a toy than a piece of machinery.
This drone is now being used in farming practices across the country. Equipped with a small camera, it flies over fields and pastures, taking pictures.
What we want to do is scout crops with them, scout cattle with them, fly fields, find infestations, whether that's a pest or an insect, and evaluate the situation and take action.
The RF-1 is a much larger drone that can fly farther distances and is also more expensive.
They don't necessarily need to go out and get the biggest and most advanced thing. They need to find something that works well for their size operation and what they're comfortable with.
Joe Johnson of Mount Vernon helps his family farm. He thinks a drone would help farmers save time and money.
Spraying is a big part of that. So if you spray on time and you have the equipment to know what to spray, how much to spray, and where to spray, you could essentially save money on chemical, water, labor.
One important thing that the farmers need to know about the drones is that they need to operate under FAA guidelines.
The main things is you want to keep that drone, UAV, within line of sight, below 400 feet, and over your own area and land of operations.
Operations that could be run more efficiently in the future, one drone at a time.
Coming up right after the break, we'll take a full look at your weather forecast.